Hi guys, I'm What Rhymes with Sayo, and this is my Draw My Life video. So let's get right to it, shall we? I was born in 1992 in Canada, and at birth I was completely bald, and I stayed that way for about 2 years. So pictures are fun from that time. Kindergarten came around, and I was a rambunctious little thing. I liked to run around and play therapist for the other kids, having them tell me their problems and me lending them my advice. I was kind of a weird kid. My eyesight was actually pretty poor though, so I ended up having to get my first pair of glasses, which sucked because kids aren't exactly kind to that kind of thing. The therapist thing led me to meet my long-term best friend Lizzie in grade 1. I saw her crying on the edge of the playground and I went over to see if I could help. We ended up becoming inseparable for about 15 years after that. Grade 1 is also where I developed my lazy eye, and I ended up having to wear an eye patch. Kids called me Patches the Pirate, which hurt at the time, but in retrospect is an awesome nickname. Needless to say, I didn't make many other friends besides Lizzie. In grade 5, my parents decided it was a good idea for me to move to the Middle East, where my dad was offered a job. Despite my sister and I's protests, we ended up packing our things and moving to Abu Dhabi. It was a complete culture shock, and the memories I have are kind of fuzzy about this part of my life. I ended up meeting 3 girls though who helped me through a lot of life changes, and they were amazing. Just by being silly, they made me feel a lot better. I still think really fondly of them, even though we haven't talked properly in about a decade. Unexpectedly, my family moved back to Canada after 7 months. It's a really long story, but my sister and I had no idea we were going back for good until we were already home. That was okay with me though, because I had really missed Lizzie and my old way of life. I remember my first day back, I went to my old elementary school in an abaya I'd bought in the Middle East to surprise Lizzie. I remember that day being a really happy day. In grade 8, I started high school, and I ended up doing a lot of changing. I started wearing contacts and thick black eye makeup, bright colors, fairy wings, and I even had pink in my hair for a while. The summer between grade 10 and 11, I ended up disliking who I was becoming, so I started changing. I changed my school, so I ended up going to a public school in grade 11 so I could reinvent myself and become somebody I liked. So it was a really big time for change. So at public school, I ended up becoming really interested in film photography, and I even had one of my pieces up at a cafe near my school, which I was really proud of at the time. I ended up moving back to my private school in grade 12 because I'm an overly nostalgic person. I'd grown up with the people at that school, grade 1 to 12, and I wanted to graduate alongside them, so I went back. After graduation, I took a half year out of school to work before going to college and starting what would have been an English degree. A year later, I was restless and really unsure of what I wanted to do or where I was going with my life, and caused a lot of anxiety. And I still feel pretty anxious about my future, but I'm a lot more content with it than I was then. So this panic actually caused me to pack up all of my stuff and move to England. I traveled around a little bit around the UK before I ended up staying in Chester, where I lived for about 8 months. Here I met some really amazing people, and I ended up working at a Costa, minimum wage and working and living on my own. It was kind of stressful, making ends meet, but I grew immensely as a person, and yeah, it was an experience I wouldn't trade for the world. It was kind of lonely at times, but definitely worth it. I ended up having to move back though because my grandfather passed away. I didn't make it back in time for the funeral, or I wouldn't have anyways. And then I found out that the burial was going to be in the summer, so I planned to make it back for then. So I bought a ticket and I packed up all my stuff, and in the summer I moved back to Canada. Now at 20, I'm planning to backpack through Europe with one of my closest friends, Angela. We're going to end up moving to London, we think, as we're both EU citizens. Hopefully this time for longer. For the future, I'm hoping to go to film school along with taking some media courses, and my future is bright, and I'm extremely excited about it. So, onward! Yeah! For anybody who's watching, I tag you to make a Draw My Life video. It's a lot of fun. I don't know. Just do it. Yeah, do it. Excuse the fact that this globe doesn't look like a globe. Thanks.